Hello folks, I'm Alex, this is Alex Unabridged, and this is my April TBR and pile of possibilities. So welcome back to the channel if that is the case. Yes, getting towards April, and there's quite a lot going on BookTube in April. There are 3 events that I want to take part in. So this is going to be quite a big TBR. Part of it's going to be a pile of possibilities because otherwise I'll just overface myself. But I've been doing some thinking of how I can fit these 3 reading events in, and there is some crossover, so I think I can do it. So I'm going to whip through stuff today, hopefully, to avoid this video getting too long. And yeah, so this is what I've got on my plate for April. Lots of exciting stuff to get through, but yes, quite a pile. So let's start off with the results from my quarterly Chonk poll. Then for the selection of my my next big hefty tome that I'm going to be reading in Q2. Thank you to everyone who voted in the poll that I put up on the community tab. I have now touched up the results of that, plus a few extra votes that came in through the comments on my video about it. And these are the results then. The winner for Q2 and what I will be reading is Swan Song by Robert McCammon. Which I'm quite excited about. So yes, thank you to everyone who voted. That got 16 votes out of a 42 vote total, and both Gormenghast and Pillars of the Earth got 13 votes apiece. So they were a tie for the second place, the runners up. So I'm not sure which one I'll put back into the next poll. Probably Pillars, because Gormenghast has had two chances now. I will get to Gormenghast for sure, but yeah, this time it's going to be Swan Song. Okie dokes. Next thing on the list is a buddy read, hopefully, if Cliff, Everett Cliff's Dark Gems, is still up for this. This is going to be Dolly, I think, by Susan Hill. This is a kind of a ghost story, if you like, sort of set in the English Fens, and it looks quite creepy. It's nice and short. We were originally potentially going to read Mine by Robert McCammon, but that was only if Swan Song didn't win the poll. So I will get to Mine at a later date. I don't know, Cliff will as well. But for our buddy read, it will be Dolly by Susan Hill. Okie dokes, what's next? Right, into the science fiction for the somewhat hesitant reading for April. My big old sci-fi project to get me going with some of the sci-fi classics. The first of those is this one, is Stranger in a Strange Land by Robert Heinlein. Robert A. Heinlein, in fact. I know very little about this other than is quite controversial. The back just says, "This is perhaps Robert Heinlein's most important and significant novel to date. Entertaining, perhaps shocking, it attacks all the religious explanations of faith, undermines the idea of sexual relations based on jealousy, pokes a bitter satirical finger at the materialists and the politicians." Like 1984, like Brave New World, Stranger in a Strange Land is a searing indictment of Western civilization, a staggering, shocking, revealing look at the fundamental urges in our way of life. So yeah, but it doesn't actually tell me what it's about in terms of, like, you know, what sort of plot is it, what sort of setting is it. It tells me that, you know, prepare to be shocked. So yeah, so I'm interested to see what this one's all about. Okay, and the second book in my science fiction reading for this project for the month is The Drowned World by J.G. Ballard. And this is kind of a climate apocalypse tale, really. I think set in London, what's left of London. I don't know, again, I don't know a huge amount about it. This is my first step into the new wave era of science fiction. So far I've been mainly reading the classic stuff, the golden age stuff. So yeah, so this will be I expect this to be a bit different. Plus it's J.G. Ballard, and the only thing I know of Ballard is Crash, which was made into a film by David Cronenberg. So yeah, it'd be interesting to potentially read something very different to what I've read, you know, in the most recent weeks in terms of the old school golden age stuff. Okay, then my month with project, where I'm reading books by authors that I've only read maybe one or two things before, and I want to see how much I really like them or don't. This one is one of the outliers when it's not an author that I've read something that I've loved. This is an author that I've read one thing by and I didn't like, and this is Grady Hendrix. So I think Grady Hendrix deserves another chance. I read Horror Store, really didn't get on with it, really didn't like it, didn't rate it. But I know he's extremely popular, and there must be a good reason for that. So maybe I think that one maybe was spoilt a bit by a poor audio narration. So we'll try a couple more. So I'm going to try How to Sell a Haunted House, because I've seen very good reports of that. And then I'm also going to try My Best Friend's Exorcism, which is a sort of story of friendship and possession. It's set in the 1980s, sort of school in the 1980s. So yeah, we'll give those two a go. They seem to be quite popular. As I say, I think Hendrix deserves another chance from me before I can really say I don't like his stuff. Right, next thing then, Historathon. We're just about to enter quarter 2 of Historathon, which is 500 CE to 1500 CE in terms of the dates that we can work within. I'll be doing a separate video kind of covering what I read in quarter 1 and the sort of things that I've got planned for quarter 2, coming out separately in April. But the one I'm going to start with in April is this one, Femina or Femina, A New History of the Middle Ages Through the Women Written Out of It by Janina Ramirez. This one looks fascinating. Gets very good reviews. I know Willow from Willow Talks Books has kind of talked about this recently, and she's given it, you know, big thumbs up. But yeah, this sounds really, really interesting. Sort of about the women that, you know, made such an impact, such a difference in various different realms of society in the Middle Ages, but we don't hear anything about. And yeah, I really like what I've seen of Janina Ramirez's TV stuff. Again, she's another one that's incredibly accessible, passionate, enthusiastic about her subject, very, very knowledgeable, very much like Alice Roberts. I've read Ancestors recently. So yeah, I think this one could be a really, really accessible but fascinating book to start quarter 2 with for Historathon. Okie dokes then, events. Yes, 3 events this month. The first one is Trans Girl April, which I did last year. This is organised by Sir Kevi. I will link to Kevi's channel in the description. It's a little smaller this year than it was last year. There aren't kind of any prompts. Mainly, I know Kevi's kind of not been booktubing quite so much as she was. I think she's been quite busy. So she's just released a little announcement to say basically just, you know, this year, just read stuff by trans authors. And so I shall, of course. So I've picked 3 because I'm going to read one book by a trans woman, 1 book by a trans man, and 1 book by a non-binary or genderqueer author. And so the ones that I've picked are In the Shadow of Extinction, Part 2 by Kelly Warner. I read the first part of this last year, and it was very good fun. It's a kaiju epic kind of story, and it was really good fun, really easy to read. and I haven't yet had chance to read further. So, you know, a year's nearly gone by, so it's about time to crack on with part 2. The next one is Gumballs by Erin Nations. Erin Nations is a trans man and an illustrator, creator of graphic novels, and this is a graphic novel about his transition. I very much enjoyed sort of memoirs about transition and trans identity before that I've read. So when I saw this one, I was like, oh, yeah, I'll have some more of that. So I'm very much looking forward to that one. And then I'm going to listen to the audiobook of Freshwater by Ekweke Imeze, who is a non-binary author. This one I think potentially has some sort of fantasy, magic realism kind of stuff to it. I read Pet by Imeze last year for, I think, for Trans Girl at Ape-ril. Possibly that, or, you know, sort of a couple of months later. It's nearly a year since I read it. And that was fantastic. I really, really liked that. So, and the writing style, Imeze's writing style is fantastic. So yes, I'll have a listen to that, and hopefully that will be good. Next event then is Giant Ape-ril, organised by Roy Reads Anything. And this one is, you know, it's about giant apes and giant monsters generally. King Kong obviously being the biggie, the most well-known one. And this is just kind of, you know, there are prompts for this, but again, it's largely read stuff about Kong or about other giant apes or other giant creatures. So I've already got In the Shadow of Extinction on my list, which is of course a kaiju tale, so it's all giant monsters, sort of Godzilla-esque type things. And then the other one that I've had in my kind of Kindle Unlimited wish list for ages is the novelisation of Kong Skull Island. I forget what year the film came out, but it's a relatively recent film. It's in the last 10 years, I think. And the novelisation is by Tim Leben, and I've read quite a few sort of Tim Leben novelisations. And I really like what he does generally. So I'm going to give that one a crack, I reckon. So that's 2 for Giant Ape-ril. And then it's the biggie. Then it's the main event, if you like. And that is Old School April, organised by Kelsi over at Slime and Slashers. I did this last year. I absolutely adored it. I think it's a fantastic, fun event. And it's back again, and it's even bigger, even better, even more bonkers. And so, yeah, there are tons of hosts. I will link in the description to Kelsi's announcement and channel and stuff. She has got all of the information, all of the prompts, principles, everything. There's everything. There's been nothing left unthought of for this. This is a readathon and a watchathon and a do-a-thon. There are activities as well. So yeah, there are a ton of hosts. There'll be a ton of stuff going on for Old School April, and as I say, I will link in the description to the hosts and to Kelsi's channel, and you can find all your information over there. But it's really good this year, I have to say, because there's so many prompts and they're so open that you could read pretty much anything and be able to get points for it. It's not hugely specific, you know, in terms of having to find really kind of niche things. You can do, but you don't have to. So a lot of the stuff that I've already talked about in terms of like, even like this will fit in for one of the prompts. The Heinlein will fit, my science fiction will fit, my Grady Hendrix will most definitely fit in for getting points for several prompts. It's so open, it's so easy to take part in, basically. It's really, really inclusive. So thanks to Kelsi for that makes it a lot easier to kind of feel like I'm hitting quite a few prompts in this. There are, of course, there's the watchathon as well. I won't go through my sort of selections for this in this video because we'll be here all day, but I will, of course, be watching a load of like 1980s, 70s, 80s and 90s nostalgic movies. And then there are the activities as well, which, you know, things like attend an Old School April sprint, colouring as nostalgic themed colouring book page, build a Lego set, all that kind of stuff. There'll be quite a few bits there, which I will probably do because it's the sort of things that I can do as I'm listening to audiobooks. So yeah, so fantastic event. So what am I going to read for this then? There are host recommendation books, so I have been through those, and I am picking Autumn Crow High by Cameron Chaney. So this is a part of a series. This is Fresh Hell. This one is the first one, I think. And this takes you back to a town where every night is Halloween, while paying tribute to the young adult horror boom of the 1990s. School is back in session at Autumn Crow High. Will the class of 1994 survive long enough to graduate, or will the cursed town of Autumn Crow devour them all? So I really like the look of these. This is Kelsi's pick. So yeah, I'm definitely going to have a crack at that one. I think that'll be great fun. Another one that another thing that I'm going to do is, one of the prompts is to use a letter picking wheel, and whatever the letter that's spat out by the wheel, then you can pick a book which is, the title is that, uses that letter, starts with that letter, or the author's first name or last name. So I will spin a wheel. I've got a wheel ready. I will spin this wheel and we'll see what letter that we get chucked out. Okay, a J. Right, okay, well that's relatively easy, because the first name that comes to mind for me is an author that I've literally just finished reading something by this week, that I loved, and that I'm really kind of desperate to read some more of, and that is John Wyndham. So yeah, I just finished Day of the Triffids a couple of days ago and absolutely flipping loved it, and I really want to read some more. So I'm going to pick a book by John Wyndham. And I think, if I remember rightly, one of the shorter ones on Audible Plus catalogue in terms of the audiobook was Chocky, and that's only sort of 4 or 5 hours long. So I think I'm going to go with that one. So we'll say Chocky for that one by John Wyndham for the J. Okay, I haven't really kind of thought hugely about the rest of them. And this is a pile of possibilities that's coming up next, because I will not get through all of these, or I'll be very surprised if I do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and take you, and we're going to shop my shelves for things that I own that will potentially fit with 1, 2, 3, 4, however many of the prompts, and sort of see what I've got on my shelves, tick some more books off my Read What You Own challenge list, and come up with some potentials for me to dip into during April. Okay, so we're going to start up here in this one little shelf I've got upstairs at the moment. So what have we got? We've got Matheson. Oh, Ray Bradbury. That would do, because I think one of the prompts is like featuring a carnival. So yeah, that's like sort of a carnival sort of show comes to town, isn't it? So okay, so that one can go on the list. What else we got up here? More sci-fi. I don't want too much more sci-fi. I go over mad on the sci-fi. Oh, we've got Richard Lehman as well. More carnival stuff. Funland. Okay, that can go in the pile of possibilities. Still haven't read that. Okay, got dolls. I know there's a dolls on the cover prompt. So Ramsey Campbell. That's on. I know that's on my like top 10 things to read in my Read What You Own challenge as well. They're a bit newer. Ooh, Birdman. Yeah, I know one of the prompts is like read a book where like the monster, where man is the monster essentially. Now this is a serial killer story and I really want to read this. Okay, it's going on the pile. Right, so there's 4 to go in the pile of possibilities. Now we'll go downstairs and look at the other shelves and see what's down there. Okay, you'll have to excuse the state of these shelves because I'm in the middle of like reorganizing stuff. Most of the stuff behind is stuff that I've already read or am partway through or what have you. But this stack here, there's some stuff I haven't read. Oh, I know there's a prompt for read a short story. So I could read another one out of there. I've only actually read one out of here, which is the one I bought it for, which is I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream. So that's a possible. That can go there. What else we got? I do also want to reread some of Troy's short stories, Mr. Troy Tradup, from this book here. This is Troy's collection of short stories and plays. So I do want to reread some of his short stories, mainly because I said that I would give him a bit more of a breakdown of, you know, what I thought and things like that. Bit more feedback on what I thought of his stories, and I still need to do it. So I need to refresh my memory. So I might do some rereading of that. What else we got? Well, that's kind of most of that's waiting. Oh, this one is one that I bought for my sister. For Christmas, mainly because I looked at I found it in a secondhand bookshop and looked at the front cover and kind of went, what the hell is this? Then I noticed it was Philip Ridley who's written it. It's a kid's book, but I know Philip Ridley through some pretty dark, in-your-face theatre from like the 1990s, early 2000s. And so I was kind of like, what the hell is this? So I bought it for her, and she said it was great, but it was bonkers. So I can probably find a prompt that'll fit that, because I do want to read that. Oh, this one. I know this is one of Kelsi's faves, so I might have to stick this in. This would be good for, like, you know, toys on the front cover. I know that's a prompt. So Nelfs, Sydney Williams. Yeah, it's about these horrible, these little green men that this little girl likes on TV, and they turn nasty and start being rather horrible to her. So yes. Stick that one on. That feels like an old school April book, that does. What else we got down here? Anything else on this shelf? Most of this stuff is stuff that's kind of new in, so I'm trying not to read too much of that because it doesn't count towards my, you know, my read what you own challenge kind of tally. Though some of that doesn't as well, to be fair. But yes, no, I think that's probably it on that shelf. What have we got in my comics section? Again, quite a lot. Some of that's new in. Most of this stuff here is the older stuff. Oh, this is one I've had for ages that I've not read, and I know there's prompts for magic stuff, so wizards, and animal companions, and this one has got some sort of a weird magical talking koala in it, I think. Yes, talking koala. So yes. Okay, well, that's a good short one, a graphic novel, and see if I actually like this series, and if I do, I can get more of them. And it's Charles Soule, so I do quite like what I've read of Charles Soule's stuff before. So, okay, yeah, that can go on the pile. Oh, this pile's getting ridiculous, man. Okay, let's have a little look at this shelf. This is the only other shelf I'm going to allow myself to look at. And this is kind of a shelf it's fiction, and mostly fiction, I think. And it's sort of shared / my wife's stuff. That might be quite interesting. I've never read any Chuck Palahniuk, if that's the way you pronounce it. And this certainly has kind of throwback elements in terms of, you know, are you there, Satan? It's me, Madison. You know, I think there's quite a lot of sort of throwbacks or kind of homages, inspiration and stuff from kind of 1990s, 80s, 90s sort of fiction. Judy Blume, that kind of thing. The Brat Pack type thing. You know, it's like, yeah, that could be quite interesting. That one. Okay, what else then? Oh, okay. I know there's a prompt with a book with food on the cover. That's an avocado. So that would do for that. Although this particular book I think potentially, I think there's quite a bit of controversy about it. I think it's quite explicit. I remember hearing a lot of hoo-ha about it, which always intrigues me, to be fair. So sod it, it's going on the pile of possibilities for the food on the cover. Do you know what? I think that will probably do, won't it? I think that's probably plenty. So, okay, let's have a little look at the stack then of what I've got. Okay, there we go. That, for a stack of a pile of possibilities, is plenty. There's no way I'm getting through all of these, but it gives me a nice choice, because sometimes I just want a nice choice in the month where I can just go, yeah, I fancy that one. I don't necessarily want to be too tied in when it comes to these sorts of events. So there we go. That should keep me going for a bit, and certainly plenty to fill lots of the prompts there. So there we go. That is my TBR for April. So that is the definite ones are obviously my project ones, the science fiction and the Grady Hendrix, and Swan Song, which I will be starting, obviously not finishing, but starting in April, and the Historathon pick, which is the Femina. And then the rest are pretty much, you know, they're piles of possibilities. I want to get through as many as I can for Transgirl April and a couple for Giant Ape-ril, because they are smaller lists. But Old School April, I will crack my way through as many as possible, and watch stuff and do stuff. So an exciting month of reading ahead of me. Lots of different stuff. I think there'll be a huge variety of stuff that I'll be reading in April. Do let me know in the comments if you are taking part in any of these events, and if so, what are you most looking forward to reading, watching, etc. Thanks very much for joining me today, folks. As always, I will be back on Friday with my thoughts on, slightly more in-depth thoughts on Lanny by Max Porter, which I read in February and absolutely adored. Absolutely fantastic book, right up my street, and has just kind of stuck with me, and has been quite, you know, given me a lot to think about creatively, as well as, you know, somebody who wants to write, as much as, you know, just enjoyment as a reader. So I hope you will join me for that in a few days' time. But from me, for now, that's ta-ra.